Alright, Logic fans, welcome to our second video on 5.7. So this is 5.7b. We're going to continue our study of relation expansions. On the previous video, we ended having completed this particular example with overlapping universal quantifiers, and we had expanded it with 1, 2, and 3 objects to this. Let's go ahead and dive right into this one where you've got overlapping existential quantifiers. If this is the universal expansion, what would the existential expansion look like? Pause now. Okay, so this is a really interesting thing, all right, where the first one with just one object is going to be the same. But basically, since it's existential, all of these are just going to become ors. So that was one way you could solve the problem super quickly, okay? It's just by thinking about what the universal one looks like, and then sort of just doing it by direct comparison. So you're going to have all of these being ors, okay? Another way you could have thought about it is sort of like this, okay? And again, this is breaking it down step by step. So we start by removing the first quantifier, and that leaves us with an expression like this, right? This is an existential quantifier, so you're going to get the main connective or, and it's going to be at least one thing in there is such that it bears R to at least one thing. So either A bears R to at least one thing, or B bears R to at least one thing, right? And similarly, you then just expand this on its own, and you expand this on its own. So expanding this one, it's RAA or RAB. So this is for 2 objects, okay? For 3 objects, you would have, or there exists a Y such that RCY, right? And you would have to add or RAC or RBC, and you do all of them out, and you would end up with this expression, okay? So that's so some of the techniques that are available for doing this. With that hint, okay, and those examples in our back pocket, can you do one where we mix the quantifiers? So let's say we went something like this. Let's say we did, I don't know, let's do this one. Suppose I had mixed quantifiers overlapping. Could you expand this expression on 1 object, 2 object, and 3 objects, and what would it end up looking like? Okay, pause now. Okay, this case is interesting, right? The first case is just going to be like this. And again, you should really start with just trying to understand what the sentence is saying. Saying everything in there bears R to at least one thing. Okay, so everything in there loves at least one thing in there, possibly itself. All right, so if there's only one thing, that's going to be that A loves itself. But if you've got 2 things, let's see how this ends up changing. Okay, if you've got 2 things, first of all, this is the main connective of the whole sentence. So the main connective is going to have to be and. Okay, so this part here is going to become an and it's going to look something more along the lines of this. Okay, because the main connective of the sentence is this universally quantified thing. So it's going to have to be everything, that is to say both A and B on a 2-object expansion. Both A and B, all right, love at least one thing. At least one thing. So either A loves itself or it loves B, possibly both, and B loves it itself or it loves A. Everything loves at least one thing. A loves at least one thing, that's this part. And B loves at least one, and B loves at least one thing, that's this part, okay? And so similarly from there, you can probably figure out like, okay, since this is the universal quantifier, the main connective has to be and. So these are going to change to ands, and these are going to remain as at least one. So everything loves at least one thing. So with respect to A, it loves at least one thing, which is to say either it loves itself, or it loves B, or it loves C. And B loves itself, or it loves A, or it loves C. Okay, and C loves itself, or it loves A, or it loves B. Right? Everything loves at least one thing. So it's got to hold for A, B, and C, right? A satisfies this description, B satisfies this description, and C satisfies this description. So if we're thinking about it in terms of removing one quantifier at a time, and again, I'll just do it with the 2-object case, you're going to be looking at something like this. Removing this quantifier, again, with 2 objects, everything, so it's going to be both A and B, you're going to end up with an expression that looks something like this. We've removed this quantifier, right? We're leaving everything else untouched, but A is going to be this way, and B is going to be this way. And if it were 3 objects, you'd have and C would be that way, okay? But yeah, what you're going to end up doing here then is you're going to now expand this thing. Okay, so you're going to have an expression that looks something like this, where this and is right here, and the expansion of this thing with 2 objects is here, and the expansion of this thing with 2 objects is here. So at least one thing, right, is born R by A. So either RAA or RAB. And at least one thing is born R by B. So RBA or RBB, right, which is exactly what we have here. Okay, so that's the sort of step-by-step method for doing it. All right, let's try, what if we reverse the order here? What if we reverse the order of the existential and the universal quantifier? So let's try that. So this is the sentence I have in mind, okay? Can you expand this with 1 object, with 2 objects, and with 3 objects? Okay, and here's the solution to this one as a sort of guiding light for it. What would you get? Pause now. Okay, hopefully you got it, but the first one's going to be the same. And again, let's just start with unpacking the meaning of the sentence, right? It says there's at least one thing in the bag that loves everything in the bag. At least one thing loves everything in there. So there's just one thing is going to be A loves itself. But if you've got 2 things, right, on the 2 object expansion, it's going to be either A loves everything or B loves everything. So you're just going to be switching this, right? And notice, since this is the main connective is going to be or. Okay, and then the connective inside of that is going to be the and. So, you know, either A loves everything, it loves itself and it loves B, if there's 2 objects, or B loves everything, it loves itself and it loves A, right? At least one thing loves everything in there. Okay, and so for the case of 3 objects, right, it's just going to end up looking like this, right? We're just going to be reversing all of these, and again, the main connective is going to have to be or, and the main connective inside is going to have to be and, because of the order of the quantifiers here, right? Main connective or, inner connective and. Okay, and that's a really, really nice way of being able to do it. And again, you can do it step by step. Peel this one off here. Let's walk through that for those of you that are still struggling with that concept. So what we're going to do first is we're going to peel off the first quantifier. Okay, so we're going to take off the x quantifier, and since we're taking off an existential, we're going to do or. We're going to be left with something like this, and since we peeled off the x, it's the x's that are going to change, and we're going to leave the y's alone. They're right there, okay? And at least one thing, so A or B is that way, okay? And then what you're going to have is an expansion of this thing, right, or this whole thing. So it's going to end up looking like this, where this thing expanded is right here. And now, since you're doing the fixed in place case, right, it's just going to be everything is born R by A. So it's going to be RAA and RAB. Again, this is a 2 object example. And then for this side, you're going to have everything is born R by B. So it's going to be RBA and RBB, right? And which is exactly what we have right here. Okay, so you can do it step by step. You can also just sort of learn the patterns, okay? And it's a really nice way of being able to expand sentences. And again, this all has applications for finding invalidity interpretations of certain arguments that involve premises or conclusions about relations with multiple quantifiers and things like that. So we will do an example of that on one of these 5.7 videos. But before we get to that, I want to present you all of these expanded with, let's say, two objects just sort of lined up underneath each other. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So here what I'm doing is I'm expanding each of these on two objects. We've already done it, but I just want you to see all the two object ones lined up next to each other. We do the same thing for three objects, okay? But this first one, the main connective is going to be and. For this one, the main connective is going to be or. For this one, the main connective is going to be and, all right? And then for this one, the inner connective is also going to be and. So you're going to have and in here, right? And you've got something on either side of it is the point, okay? And then for this one, the inner connective is going to be or. So you're going to have some kind of expression that looks like this. And then for this one, the inner connective is also going to be or. Okay, so you're going to have some sort of expression that looks like this. And for this one, the inner connective is going to be and. So you're going to have an expression that looks like that. Okay, again, I'm imagining this with two objects, A and B. Okay, so I mean, this is kind of a helpful way of looking at it. And then obviously, you've got to enumerate the possibilities. So RAA and RAB. This is going to be RBA and RBB. And this order, RAA, RAB, RBA, RBB, is going to repeat throughout. It's just the connectives that are changing. That's it, right? So it's just going to look like this. It's a really, really nice way for you to be able to sort of remember how all of this goes really quickly and effectively, okay? Just trying to sort of advance your understanding and give you different tricks of the trade for which you can gain a lot of confidence with this material. I hope this is helping you. And to sort of reinforce this idea, so notice it's the exact same pattern, right? And it's just which connective, right? If the outer connective is universal, then you're going to get, an and. If it's existential, you're going to get an or, and same thing with the inners, okay? Really, really cool idea. And then if you have three objects, you've got another one, okay? It's pretty straightforward stuff. Now, to reinforce this idea, let's go ahead and do a bunch of these examples, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But suppose that I gave you this. Expand each of these on two objects, let's say, okay? Well, given what we just did here, what do you think it's going to look like? Pause now. Okay, all you're going to do is you're going to attach this across the board, okay? I mean, that's all it's going to look like. Everything else is going to be the same, all right? And I'm going to walk you through a particular one in a second to sort of convince you of that, all right, in case you're having a hard time seeing it in your mind's eye. But basically, you've got this not attached everywhere. So let's go ahead and try, I don't know, this one just for the sake of illustration, all right? So what you're going to have here is, let's peel this one off. Let's peel off the X quantifier first. So that's going to leave you with an and, right? And then you're going to have your A and you're going to have your B. Okay, so peeling this off, it's going to be A is satisfying this description and B is satisfying this description, right? So you're going to have your and then it's going to be something there and something there, right? Well, what is it? It's at least one thing satisfies this description. So it's going to be not RAA or not RAB, right? At least one thing satisfies this description. So if there's two objects, this is exactly what that amounts to. Okay, similarly over here, if you've got one thing, at least one thing satisfies this description. So not RBA, or it's not the case that RBB, which is exactly what we have right here. Okay, so you could do it step by step there also, but I'm hoping that this patterned way of showing it to you really helps you gain confidence and understanding of exactly what these expressions mean, okay? It's really cool. All right, we're out of time on this one, but I really want to go through a lot of these examples with you, so let's just keep cooking on to the next video, 5.7c. See you there.